This video is going to show you how to take brand new boards, boots, bindings and set it up to get the most optimal fit and the most performance into your board in your riding. This board here is called the Nitro T1. The T1 is a park board. I got a park board and I got a powder board. So the powder board I have this year is called the Nitro Alternator. The Alternator is 157 centimeters. It's a little bit longer than the park board. This park board is a 155. So generally, I like to have a two-board quiver, one that I'm riding for every day on the mountain in the park, and one that I'm riding whenever it's good conditions, free riding, powder, backcountry, etc. The park board for me is a little bit softer. So Nitro T1 is a twin-tip park board. That means it's exactly the same shape, both when I'm riding regular and when I'm riding switch. A board like the Alternator, even though it is a directional board, you can still ride it switch. Both the two boards I ride are camber boards. What camber means is that it has this shape where the board kind of bows throughout the whole board, so the contact points are towards the nose and the tail of the board. If you have it on a flat surface like I have here and you push it, that's how you can tell it's a camber board. Now, camber board gives you the most stability, it gives you the most pop, and it's also the type of boards that most advanced snowboarders, most of the best snowboarders are riding camber boards. So if you're a high level rider, I would also encourage you to look at camber snowboard. So the bindings that I'm mounting to this board are called the Nitro Team Pro. The Team Pro is one of their more high-end bindings from Nitro. It's what a lot of their pro team is riding. It has a lot of cool adjustability to it, good comfort. So when I'm regular, my left foot is my forward foot, my right foot is my back foot. That's easy. This board's a twin board anyway, so it doesn't matter so much on the twin board. It does matter on a directional board, such as the powder board. You want to figure out how wide do you want your stance, okay? Now, if you look at most boards, it actually tells you what the reference stance width is. So if you come in onto the board here, you'll see that this board has a 20.5 inch, which is 52 centimeters. That is your reference stance width. So if I was to mount my bindings directly over those two reference points, that's how wide it would be. I'm 5'9" tall, which is about 173 centimeters, and I like 21.5. If you're taller than me, you might like a slightly wider stance than me. If you're shorter than me, you might like a slightly narrower stance than me. And it also comes down to your riding style. For example, a wider stance gives you a bit more stability to your riding, whereas a narrower stance gives you a bit more maneuverability to your riding. Once you've figured out your stance width, you also need to figure out what angles you want. So I'm going to show you what I like, and then you guys can adapt from there. So I like to have a pretty neutral stance, but the reason I like to have a neutral stance is because I like to be able to ride forwards, and I like to be able to ride switch. So if you snowboard a ton like I do, it's actually a really good idea to have a neutral stance. So when I say 12 degrees, each one of the little indicators is 3 degrees of angle. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 angle, 4 little lines, and 4 little lines means 12 degrees. That means that when I mount the binding to the board, it's going to be facing at 12 degrees backwards. Now what I'm doing is I'm doing 12 degrees on my front foot, and I'm doing 12 degrees on my back foot, which is a very neutral, even stance. Okay, so I've found my angles, 12 degrees on this foot, and I've found that I am moving 1 notch of screws backwards on purpose, and I'm gonna take my 4 screws and tighten that in. Now that I have both bindings mounted to the board just loosely, I can now measure my stance, and a stance width is measured from center point to center point to see, and I know that I like 21.5 because I've been riding many years, and right now that one there is ever so slightly above 21.5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to micro adjust this back because I haven't tightened them fully. Take that measurement again, boom, 21.5. That is it. I've got my angles, 12 degrees on the front foot, 12 degrees on the back foot. I've got my stance width. I can lock it down. Once you've got your bindings mounted to the board, the rest of the adjustability of your bindings really comes down to your boots. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break out the new pair of boots I have and show you guys the different adjustments. So this boot is called the Nitro Select boa boot. It is one of their high-end boots. It's also one of their most durable boots. But there's a couple little features that I do like about this boot. One of the things that I really like is I'm a fan of the boa system for simplicity. I find it really easy to use, it's quick and easy, and I like that. The better fit that your boot is to your foot and your ankle, the easier it's going to be to transition all your movements into your board, which is going to make your riding more comfortable and more responsive. This boot is a size US 9.5, and you want to make sure that the binding size corresponds with the boot size you have. So the binding size I have is a size medium, Nitro binding size medium, which works anywhere from a US size 7 up to a US 11. Okay, so I've got the right size foot. If you're 11 or above, you want to be on the large size binding. There's one factor that I find really important that people don't tend to notice so much is where is the position of your boot on the snowboard? Now when I say that, I'm going to show you what's wrong. Is that if my weight of my boot was too far to the heel edge, which I'm showing right now, I've got the boot too far over the heel edge of the board, that's going to affect your riding. Okay, and I actually see this quite commonly. What that means is every time that you take off a jump or land a jump, you could be off balance. You might be landing with more weight on your heel edge. You might be one of those guys who's carving, but as they're turning, that board kind of like skids through the turn. That can be a result of having your boot too far to the heel edge. The opposite can also happen. Your boot can be too far to the toe edge, okay? So how are we gonna fix this? Most good bindings have an adjustment system to be able to center up your boot. So on this binding, if you get in here close, you can see that we have what's called small, medium, and large. And there's actually a little arrow, it's right here, a little marker that tells you what it's on. So right now it's on medium. And I happen to know, because I already checked this, that a 9.5 boot fits fairly well with a medium. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen off the screw on this side and this side of the binding to show you the range of adjustment on this binding. So I loosen off those two screws, and what you're going to see is the whole heel cup moves either out. Like right now I pulled it out, so I'm at the large. If I push it in, I'm now at the small. So if you had a smaller boot, you'd be at the small. If you have a larger boot, you'd be at the large. And what that does, it helps you to be able to position your boot to the center of your board. Because what you want to do is you want to be central on that board. Central on the board gives you the most balance. It gives you the most ability to get the most out of your snowboarding, the most control of your snowboard. Now, you can obviously do it by looking. So I'm going to go back to medium because I know that medium's around about correct for me. I'm going to tighten up those two sides again. What we're going to do is we're going to have a look down the side of the board. So I'm coming around to the side of the board and I want to have a look. Where does my boot sit? How much does my toe overhang over the toe edge versus my heel overhang over the heel edge? Now, having a look's good, but even better, and we're going to do this in a minute, is you want to actually strap your boots on, strap into your bindings, get on that board and feel it out. Feel, do I feel flat? Does my base feel flat? How much energy do I have to use to get onto my toe edge? How much energy do I have to use to get on my heel edge? Rock between the heel edge and the toe edge and feel it out, because that will be how you feel whether you're actually a little bit too much to the heel edge or too much to the toe edge. And this is a common problem. I see this on the mountain all the time in people who haven't set up their bindings correctly. And I quite often help them change it because it really affects your riding. If you're not central on your board, it really affects your balance in your riding. Make sure you check this, guys. The next thing that you can adjust on these bindings is the lengths of your straps. Now, I've purposely done this bad on purpose to show you guys, but if you were to look at this binding right now, you can see that the binding is not pulling central on the foot. I've made the heel strap too short and it's pulling this way, and I've made the toe strap a little bit too long. Now, these are really easy to adjust. Loosen off the binding, it's a toolless adjustment. You adjust it to a length that feels around about right, and looking down, you can see that now this binding is pulling central in the boot. Now, why do you want to adjust your straps? For one, it's ease of use, but for two, it's for comfort. If your straps are pulling central on your boot, it's going to be more comfortable in your riding, which over a long day of riding really adds up. I'm also adjusting this toe strap, making it a bit shorter. It'll fit more nice on the toe of the boot, giving you a more snug feel, which means that more energy is easily transferred into the board because of the comfort setup between a boot, binding, and board. Right now, I've got that pretty centered. Again, easy way to do that, get your boots on, strap in, feel what it feels like with your boots on and how the straps feel. The last adjustment that I'm going to show you guys today is what's called forward lean. Now, if you were to look at this binding right now, forward lean is the angle of the high back, okay? All bindings have a natural little bit of forward lean. If you were to look at this, you'll see that it's ever so slightly leaning forward. But most good bindings have the ability to either add more forward lean if you like forward lean. What forward lean does is it angles the high back forward. But what it really does, it gives you more performance into your board. So a lot of people who want high performance, for example, in their turning or their carving or riding a half pipe, who want a lot of reaction from when they make a move in their boot to transfer into their board, will actually add forward lean. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little screw, loosen the screw up a couple of notches. This little piece on the back, the more I move it down, the more angle of forward lean it gives me. What I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to add one notch of forward lean on it. So this is neutral. I'm going to add one forward lean notch. I'm going to tighten that back up. You can now see that that binding is ever so slightly leaning forward. If you're a beginner snowboarder and you don't know what forward lean is, add a notch, add 2 notches. See if it gives you more performance changing between the edges of your snowboard. And if it does, keep it on. I like it, I ride with it, not everyone likes it. It's there on most bindings. Now, this is how I set up my boards. Hope you guys have found this helpful. If you have any questions, just pop them in the comments. We'll do our best to answer them. I'm Nev Lapwood from Snowboard Addiction. Our goal is to improve your riding.